Do me a favor. Start ignoring the pressure that comes from the old school tabletop role-playing game community online. You know what they said after the recent death of Charlie Kirk? Well, if you went on and talked about games that night, oh, you're stupid. How could you? That's uncalled for. How can you focus on anything else? Well, who says you have to focus on anything that happens in politics? Who says you have to care when anything happens? Nobody is your master. You're not their slave. If you don't care about the events in the world, that's your right. And you have all the right to go on your fucking stream and talk about tabletop role-playing games, no matter how much some crackpot and the old school who's really focused on politics says that you shouldn't do that. Well, do it. And do it to spite people like that. To put it back in their face that, no, you don't have to bow to how they see things. They might be worked up. You don't have to be. You don't have to care about what happens. That's up to you. You know what the old school tabletop role-playing game community is doing today? They're doing character assassination on me. And they'll do it more times this week. The same type of character assassination I'm used to as a Trump supporter. It usually comes from the left. But you know, I've been around this online world for a minute, and a lot of that left-wing hate that I get, well, it comes exactly from the old school tabletop role-playing game community, or should I say, it comes exactly the same way it comes from the left, from those people. They behave just like the people you'll hear them criticizing right now. Screw the left. I'm like, well, how about you stop behaving like them online? They are a tiny, tiny smidgen of a group in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. But when you hear old school tabletop role-playing game people talk, they talk like they represent the entire fucking thing, or as if they are 50% of the hobby. They're not. And the tabletop role-playing game hobby is a grain of sand on the internet. They are a tiny minority, the hobby overall. So imagine if you're a tiny grain of sand of an already tiny grain of sand. You're nothing. The old school, you're tiny and nothing. You have no influence. You know, recently they've been, the left has been hating on some tabletop role-playing game content creators. But some of the guys who think they're really important, well, the left, they're not even mentioning their names because they don't know who they are. Those guys think they're well-known or think people know them outside of their echo chamber. But what they're learning is they really are in an echo chamber. They're popular in their own fucking bubble. But outside of that, nobody knows who they are. That's why haters don't go after them. They don't even know they exist. Because nobody fucking knows they exist outside of their echo chamber. And let's be honest, there's people like D&D that are just a copycat, a clone of other types of content creators in other areas, like, you know, in the comic book world. But he's a clone. He's not an individual. There's nothing unique about that guy. And all of his content is based on going after other people and showing you their content. I'm like, the guy wouldn't even have wouldn't have a movement or a following whatsoever if he didn't take other people's content and focus on that. Because the guy has no talent. And the reason he wasn't growing is he was trying to be a farm league of guys that do what he's doing, but they do it much better than he does. He's just a copycat of them. I'm like, the guy has no talent to actually grow his own following. That's why he has to go after people. That's why many people in the old school go after people. Because they can't grow. They can't be successful on their own. So they got to target a person like me, turn me into content and whatnot. But within that desperation for content, they act like leftists. Now, the leftist is not looking for content from me, but the reason the old school behaves like them is because they're trying to grow. They're all desperate to grow because they're going nowhere. In the old school part of the hobby online, you don't get anywhere. There's a ceiling. It's and if you start trying to reach to that ceiling, you're going to hit it and you're going to find out it doesn't go any further up. You're not breaking. It's not a glass ceiling. It's an iron dome. It's over, baby. You know what I would tell people out there that feel real pressured by other people in the old school? Just fucking ignore them. Just ignore those fucking idiots, right? Ignore them all, right? Because that's all they fucking are. Let them feed their fucking insecure egos. Because that insecurity is being shown to you through a smug face, a smug attitude. We all know that if you behave that way, it's common sense. You're covering something up, a weakness, an insecurity. A smug attitude doesn't come from real confidence. Anyone who knows the human mind knows that. So let these idiots show you who they really are. They're not villains. They're not evil. They're weak and they're insecure. Right? Let them be angry with life. When I say ignore these people, I'm not joking. Right? They're on just trying to get your attention. They're doing everything they possibly can. Like, it's... You don't need to listen to that bullshit. That's what it comes down to. You can be on here, enjoy games, talk about games, and not be controlled or pressured by anyone. And it just... Stop going to the lowest person around and turning to them. You know, the old school acts exactly like the left online, but they do it for different reasons. The left wants to shut you up. The old school tabletop role-playing game community might want to use you for content like they do me. And so they'll come at me, they'll lie about me the same way the left lies about conservatives. For a different reason, but it's the exact same behavior. You know, see, I don't forgive the left for coming at me that way, and I don't forgive the old school for coming at me that way. But if you're a member of the old school and that's not your gimmick, don't let those people control you. And I would say right now, I look at the old school like a corrupt part of the hobby. Again, you're a grain of sand. The tabletop role-playing game hobby is an absolute tiny grain of sand online. It's a minority, a tiny minority. Imagine what it is to be a tiny minority of an already tiny minority. The old school makes up less than 10% of the tabletop role-playing game hobby. Don't let them talk as if they make up 50% or that they represent the majority. They don't. Right? I walked away from that because of how bullshit it is and the game they're playing. If you go into the old school and you say something wrong and you can be turned into content, well, trust me, it won't be 1 week where they say what they have to say in response to you. 2 or 3 years down the line, you'll see them making content about you because they have nothing else to offer. The content creators there really have nothing. There's a ceiling in the old school. It's an iron dome, not a glass ceiling. When you hit it, that's it. And they'll fight over that forever. Let them. See, there's something going on in the old school that makes it not normal. They're competing for following on here. And so they're all backstabbing. You know, they slit each other's throat verbally, lie about people all the time. Character assassination. Something the left is usually doing, but the old school constantly does it. Constantly. The behavior is so bad that when they get certain members, like a guy named Ryan, and he turns around and behaves badly, it's really impossible for them to call him out because they're all behaving in a corrupted way. He just takes it a bit further, and they're like, that's uncalled for. But how can you have any ground to stand on if you're turning around and you're going, Ryan, that's uncalled for? But when I look at what you do or what you support or what your friends do or support, you guys support awful shit. You have no ground to stand on to call Ryan out. You're as two-faced as he is. He's just a bit more obvious with it. It bothers you. But you're just not the person to call him out. A person like me can call Ryan out. People in the old school can't really call Ryan out. What, are you mad at him for behaving like you? And go ahead, DD. I know you need content, kiddo. I know you're just a cheap knock me off of guys who do what you do better. Right? You're just a version of them in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. And you use other people like me, Scott, and others to entertain your fucking audience. I mean, you use everything but your own fucking talent because you don't have that. You don't have that. And Wednesday, that will be clear. You'll go on about me. You'll go on about Charlie. You'll probably go on about Scott. You'll go on about everybody. What about you? Can you talk and be entertaining? Nah, that's not who you are. Even the people that you copy, like, certain comic book people, I mean, you can copy somewhat what they're doing, but you can't copy the charisma. That's your issue. You're a cheap farm league of these types of people. And there's so many that just do this better than you. They just don't cover tabletop role-playing games. What, you thought you were going to be the super comic book stream, but it would be in the tabletop role-playing game hobby, and that's where you're going to pull the gimmick off? You just went to the wrong part of the hobby, my dude. That's what happened to you. Because if you want to be like Eric and some other people that are much better at these types of things than you are, you're going to have to go to a different part of the hobby because you came to the part that has a ceiling that says you can't go any further once you get there, and you're almost at the fucking ceiling. Just saying. The hobby is about gaming. Right? And you don't have to see the world the way everyone else does. I'm bothered by what happened to Charlie Kirk, of course. Given my beliefs. Am I devastated by it? No. I'm not going through what other people are going through. And I don't have to. I can respect Charlie. I can respect how other people feel. The second they tell me I have to feel the same way, or I have to talk about this shit the same way they are, they can go get fucked. That somebody's saying, you're talking about gaming when we should be talking about this? The person saying that is a fucking nobody who has no influence to be saying that to anyone. Right, DD? You don't have the kind of influence someone needs to push that fucking demand or go on at people. When you catch up to Eric, which you won't, guy who does this much better than you do, maybe then you'll have influence. But even our haters don't know who you are. All the left-wing people that are going after old school TTRPG people right now, they're mentioning names, but they're not mentioning DD because they don't know who the fuck he is. Because outside of his echo chamber, nobody knows who the fuck he is. He's popular in a bubble, like many of the guys are. Outside of their bubble, people don't even know they exist. Haters don't even know who DD is to hate him. Yeah, alright, okay. Alright, there, stop. I'm not going to let these idiots control how I do content. Right? I focused one political video recently, and I did one culture video the other day, which I knew would tie into politics, but given the situation, you can't really get around that. But I wanted to do something based on the culture and what is happening. But now I'm ready to go back to games, right? And that's it. And I don't have to do more. It's not my job to keep focusing on that stuff. And it gets me nowhere. And you can support without crying every day or needing to do every fucking stream based on this topic. Right? So stop letting other people and their perception of reality control you. Especially in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. Alright? People that want to control you in that hobby, tell them all, it doesn't matter what part of the hobby they come from, to go get fucked. Alright, I love you. For now, take care.